So before we go on to explain what the real choice of life is, because the choice whether or not to experience pain is simply not a choice. We're going to experience pain. I like to compare it to the analogy of going to the gym. It's an analogy that I draw upon in most things that I'm trying to explain. And that is that if you're trying to lose weight and build muscle and you go to the gym and you just sit there and don't do anything, then you're not going to gain any muscle and you're not going to lose any weight. When we walk out of that gym, we want to be covered in sweat and we want to feel the pain within our body. We want to have to feel like we're exerting ourselves beyond beyond what we feel we can do in that moment and pushing ourselves to our absolute limit. Because we recognize when it comes to going to the gym or any kind of exercise routine that we do, that if we don't make ourselves uncomfortable, we're not going to get that incredible result of having the body that we want. And it's really true for every area of life. If we want to get beyond where we are right now, if we want to get to a destination that's going to bring us joy, that's going to make us feel a sense of achievement, then we have to exert ourselves. We have to know how to deal with that pain. We have to embrace that pain. We have to want that pain. Just like when we go to the gym, we want to go through that painful experience of having to push ourselves to lift up those weights just that extra rep or that extra few times or a weight higher than we were doing the week before or the month before, because we know the only way to grow, the only way to get what we want is to go through the pain. And as I said before, if you don't go through the pain to get what you want, then you're going to go through the pain of regret. And regret is probably one of the most painful emotions. Could have, should have, but didn't. That is going to be incredibly painful. So we're going to experience pain no matter if we go to get what we want or we don't go to get what we want. So what is the real choice of life? If pain's not the choice, then what is the real choice? And I like to suggest that there's two choices either side of pain. Pain sits in the middle. We can either use pain to grow or we can use pain and not grow and therefore feel the sense of regret. The first choice on the left-hand side of pain is suffering. Suffering is actually optional. Pain isn't. We may have things that happen to us or things that we have to deal with that we didn't ask for, is out of our control. Maybe someone did something that causes pain. We didn't ask for that. We didn't request it. It just happened. The question is what we do with that pain. What do we do with the pain? If we don't engage with it, if we don't become stronger than the pain, then we're always going to have to deal with that. And then that pain manifests and infects and turns into suffering. Suffering of having to stay with that painful thinking and those painful emotions and those painful circumstances. Pain only stays pain for so long. After a while, it turns into suffering. Like if you get a wound. If you hurt yourself and you don't deal with it in a healthy way, if you don't become stronger than that pain, that wound is going to infect. And if it infects, it can turn into something a lot worse than it needs to be. So on the one side of pain, we have this concept of suffering. And suffering is a choice. Suffering is a choice. And it's so important to realize that, because I know personally from my life, I've had lots of challenges, lots of really difficult challenges. By knowing that the pain is normal, I may not have asked for it, I may not have requested it, but it did happen, then I have a rule that I don't want to suffer. I refuse to suffer because suffering is optional. It is just optional. My only choice is to deal with the pain. So if the choice is, if I don't want to suffer and I want to deal with the pain, then what's the other choice on the other side of pain? And that is growth. That is growth. You've got pain, and on one side you've got suffering. If you don't deal with it, it becomes optional. It's a choice to suffer. Or we have the choice to grow. And if we grow, we reap all the rewards. So if we're in pain because we're overweight, or we're in pain because our business isn't going the way we want it to go, or our relationships are not going the way we want it to go, if we don't become stronger than those challenges, then we suffer. But if we do take control of it, if we do become stronger than that pain, then we grow. And if we grow, we reap all the rewards of making that business work. We reap all the rewards of getting the body that we want, or getting the relationship that we want. It's again, let's go back to the gym. Imagine you're able to lift up 20 kilo, right? But you want to lift up 30, right? And it's going to be a certain amount of pain in having to lift up 30 kilo because you can't currently do it. If you don't lift up the 30 kilo, if you don't become stronger than the 30 kilo, if you don't exert yourself to become stronger than 30 kilo, the 30 kilo isn't going to change. There's nothing wrong with the 30 kilo. It's not going to change. The only thing that has to change is ourselves. But if we don't change, then we suffer, because then we won't get the body that we want and we'll always remain weak. compared to that challenge of the 30 kilo. But if we grow, if we cultivate a sense of growth and a sense of responsibility, then we will become stronger than 30 kilo. And then you will reap the natural rewards of having a stronger body. Because in order to lift up the 30 kilo from 20 kilo, you have to become stronger. And that is the two choices. I don't live by a choice of whether or not I want to experience pain. It's not in my control. There are millions of things, there are millions of interactions that are simply out of my control. I can only control what I have right in front of me. And whether or not I'm going to experience pain is not a choice I take into my mind. My only choice is, am I going to suffer, which is optional, and I do not want to go down that road, or am I going to grow? What have I got to do to overcome this challenge? And it's such a powerful way of thinking. It's such an empowering way of thinking. And if you look at people who are doing incredible things with their lives, whether it's financial or whether or not they're making a difference to other people's lives or they're an inspiration in any shape or form, chances are they've had a moment of pain where they had to make a decision. Am I going to suffer or am I going to grow? I've seen this with people in business so many times. Just talking to a guy the other day, his business is now doing really well. I said to him, I'm pretty convinced you had moments that were incredibly painful and the business could have gone either way. And he said, yes. I said, what did you do? He goes, we found a way to take control of that pain and grow. And we learned things about the business that allowed us to make it successful, to make it profitable. And I've had this conversation so many times with people. And I've had this conversation with people in relationships where they have a relationship they want. They didn't just have smooth sailing to the place that they're at. They had to deal with painful moments, but they could have suffered and therefore lost the relationship, but they decided to grow. They decided to take control of the dips that they experienced, and therefore they became stronger than the pain, which is going to happen no matter what, and now they have grown, they're reaping the rewards within their relationship. If I look at my own story, there's been many moments of pain that have really tested my resilience. They really pulled on my heartstrings, really challenging stuff. But I made a decision going back about 8-9 years ago that I refuse to suffer. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to grow. And because of that, I'm having the ability to share this video. I've been blessed to be involved in people's lives because from that growth, I've got a passion to share stuff. I've got a passion and a skill set, I hope, I like to think, that is able to make a difference. And I feel truly blessed to the extent that I say to people, I'd go through all those experiences again. No matter how painful they were. I would go through all of them again because those painful experiences were an opportunity to grow. Every painful experience is an opportunity to become stronger, to learn something new about ourselves, to grow and reap the rewards when we get to the other side. Because the other option is not pretty at all. Is to suffer and allow that pain to manifest into something it shouldn't be. I would go through everything again. There's nothing I would not go through again to be where I am right today, to be with the mindset and the things that I've learned. I'm not the perfect thing. I'm far from being perfect. And I've got so many things that I still need to work on and grow, but that's just part and parcel of life. There's never an end to what we can grow. That's why bodybuilders still work out. That's why business people still work. That's why people in great relationships still have things they have to deal with because there's no end to how much love you can build in a relationship. It's never ending. The good is never ending. The potential is never ending. But we have to know how to deal with that pain. If we see pain as a choice, we're distorting just the facts of life. Life doesn't go in a straight line. We have to make the decision that I refuse to suffer. I refuse to suffer, and I'm going to find a way to grow. And I see this many times. You speak to people who are doing incredible things, and if you dig deep, you will find painful experiences in their life that became the trigger, that became the catalyst where they made the decision to grow. And because of that growth, they are now better off. I still remember one example. This one sticks out in my mind. There's a blind museum where you go to this museum, it's an experience more, and it's complete darkness and you get taken around by a guide who's blind, and you kind of get into the experience of what it feels like to be blind. I did it. It was the most incredible experience. And my father also did it at a different time to me. And at the end of the whole experience, you get to sit around a table with your group, with your guide who's blind. And most people tend to ask the question of, how'd you cook food? How'd you get dressed? How'd you go out in the street? But my father asked his guide a different question. This guide, I think he went blind when he was like 21, and he said to the guide, if you could get your eyesight back, would you take it? And everyone, I remember him telling me, everyone in the group was like, oh, how can you ask such a question? And this guide said, no one's ever asked me that question. No one's ever asked me that question. And you know what? I would stay the way I am. I would not want to go back to having my eyesight. And my father said to him, why? Why do you feel that way? He goes, because since I've lost my eyesight, I've done more. I have done more in my life than I did than when I had my eyesight. That pain became an opportunity to propel forward. It forced me into a position where I had to make a decision. I'm either going to struggle through life for the rest of my life, I'm either going to suffer, or I'm going to become something extraordinary. And since he lost his eyesight, he's done, I think, a degree, 2 masters, and a host of other things. I've told the story of Amy Cuddy, who lost both her legs. And since losing both her legs, she struggled at the beginning, which is understandable. But since then, she's won back-to-back championships in snowboarding, something she never did when she had both her legs. And she set up a charity as well. Now, I never asked her the question because it's a TED Talk. But I think if you would ask these type of people, which life would you prefer? The life before you experience that painful moment or the life afterwards? I think they would say the life afterwards, because when you take pain and you cultivate it, the strength, the incredible power, the incredible resilience, and the results that you get make it worthwhile. So let's ask ourselves a question. Think about something in your life right now that is painful for you. Think about something painful. It might be a relationship, it might be your body, it might be your business, it might be your well-being. How are we dealing with it? Are we hoping that it disappears? Are we hoping that it goes away? Well, in some ways that's delusional, because pain is always going to be present. There's always going to be pain. And the more we grow, the greater the challenge is going to be, but the greater the reward, right? The greater the challenge, the greater the reward. If you climb up a hill, you're not going to feel a great sense of achievement because it doesn't involve that much work. But if you climb up a mountain, which involves a lot more pain than a hill, then you're going to get a greater sense of achievement because it involves a lot more input. The greater the input, the greater the output. So let's look at ourselves. Let's think about something we're struggling with right now. What is our attitude? Are we saying this shouldn't be this way, it shouldn't happen, they shouldn't have done it? And we're manifesting and growing that pain into a negative way that's making us suffer. It's being infected into suffering. Or are we accepting it and trying to find a way to become stronger than our pain? Are we finding a way to grow and reap the incredible rewards that sits on the other side of pain? And it's so true. I always say to people, on the other side of your greatest pain is your greatest pleasure. On the other side of your greatest challenge lies the greatest rewards. And this shift in attitude, this shift towards pain, and this understanding that it's not really a choice, the choice is to suffer or to grow. And why anyone would want to suffer is beyond me, because it's hell. I've been there. I've got the t-shirt. I will never go back to that way of thinking, please God. Never go back to that way of thinking, because that growth is so incredible. What lies on the other side of that pain is truly incredible, that will make your life so amazing, or make your life so fulfilling. But let's ask ourselves, what attitude are we currently living by? Do we need to shift our attitude? Are we suffering unnecessarily? Or have we really taken control of our pain and set ourselves free?